Hello, 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 hello. It's an honor to be with you today. And first of all, yes, I work on the dark side. Well, first of all, why this title for my presentation? Let's put it up here if you don't mind. Throw my slides up. Pesky. You're calling me a pesky competitor. What a heck of a way to start a morning. I fly in last night. I'm honored to be in your group. Never spoken to this association, and you call me. So I figured out what the heck. I go out on the internet, figure out what pesky means. Pesky means what? Making someone annoyed or irritated. Nice way to start off the speech, right? So obviously, oh, by the way, here's the synonyms: abrasive. What a way to tee things up. But let's discuss and see if I am a pest to you, because what I do for a living. My company's called the Blinder Group. I've owned it for 17 years. We work with multiple different forms of media, but yes, 68% of my clients are newspapers. And I've been working with them now 17 years. Largest, the Chicago Sun-Times, but most of the papers I work with now are weeklies, mostly suburban newspapers. A lot of weeklies, a lot of getting into small towns. Last week I was working for a company called Boone Newspapers. We're going to dissect that deployment in just a few minutes as I take you through every single stage of it and show you how we generated all this money. But that was in towns like Selma, Alabama, Greenville, Alabama. I was just circling around Montgomery. We make four-legged sales calls. My company's motto is you train in the car as well as the classroom, and I know your industry excels at that, but the newspaper industry, please don't tweet this, has not. Managers have tended to stay in their office, and we train heavily in the car. And we ride 5,000 times a year. I have a team of 4 or 5 guys, well, 4.5 guys, I should say. Ride with reps, train them as they close the deals. I also do workshops, going to talk about that in a moment. We bring the mountains to Mohammed, bring these small business owners into settings. Did one 6 weeks ago in Saudi Arabia, was doing them in South America and Russia. But generally in North America, we presented to 25,000 business owners last year, generated a little bit north of $11.3 million. Does that make me pesky? I'm not too sure. And 73% of that was digital. A lot of the stuff we sell now is geeky, and that's what we're going to dissect today. But let's not talk about me. I'd like to introduce you to tomorrow's keynote speaker, this gentleman. His name is Gordon Burrell. He's a friend of mine. I have a lot of respect for him. And he will be here tomorrow morning to talk about the power of morphing. It's going to be an exciting speech. But what bugs me most about Gordon is he's never friggin' wrong. I mean, I'm always wrong. I'm the guy that owns 2 pieces of waterfront property in Tampa Bay, Florida, where I hail. I would have never bought them if I had a crystal ball. I'm the money guy. People seek out Gordon, look for his advice, look for the trending, pick the media, then seek me out to go out and monetize it. This guy is never wrong. And by the way, he may quote from his latest report, which actually has good news in it, because since the recession, a lot of his stuff was doom and gloom. He actually uses the word rosy for us, which he calls the legacy media. But I'm going to dial back now to 2009, because I wanted to tie this together with Gordon. 2009, when everybody was running for cover, and everybody was going nuts, and your 401k became a 201k, and you didn't know the value of your home, Gordon had the unmitigated gall to issue a new report. And this changed my life. It was called Main Street Goes Interactive. I believe that was the seedling for what he now calls the Compass Study. Excellent data that dissects every category of small businesses, what they're spending money on, which media, how much of that is digital. Valuable data, but this goes back to 2009. And by the way, then, this is the trend, at least for most of my clients in the newspaper industry. That was the big drop-off for print revenue in the beginning of a lot of online digital revenue growth. And in 2009, they had the unmitigated gall to predict an increase in spending. Remember, everybody was decreasing spending then, am I right? Everybody was pulling back. Businesses were saying, oh, we're just going to use word of mouth. We're going to stop. And everybody was running for cover. Then he had the unmitigated gall to throw a convention. 2009, the NAA was cutting back. All the associations were cutting back on conventions because most media companies didn't have a budget. He calls me up on my phone. I'm with my wife. I remember it like it was yesterday. And he says, I want you to speak at this conference. I'm going into the conference business. By the way, this was the precursor for the local media conference he just did a few weeks ago in New York City. This was the first one. And I said, sure, Gordon, I'll come up there. I'll speak there. And I said to my wife, no one's going to come. 2009, he had like standing room only. Everybody was there to learn about this growth in digital. This woke me up. Let me tell you why it woke me up. The original slide from that report and that conference were these 2 prognostications from Gordon. Remember, who's always right. Everything he has said has come to pass. And he's going to speak to you tomorrow and give you his predictions as well. First one, strongest growth will come from SMBs. Now, we're back in 2009 where everyone's running for cover. And he's saying these magic words to me that I'm 57 years old. I had to sell through the 80s. Does anyone remember the 80s? I mean, does anyone remember when Paul McCartney was in a band before Wings? I mean, we're talking the 80s now, and I had to learn it then, and I remember when I was managing radio then. My background is radio and television. I was managing an AM radio station in the 80s where FM was my disruptor. We had 17% unemployment in this market because all the mills had shut down that were making shoes, and my boss, the owner, used to say, when you lose the big dog, replace it with 5 little dogs. So this woke me up because he was right. A lot of the national brands were pulling back. We got to be street fighters, which, by the way, I have a heck of a lot of respect for your industry because you guys basically are street fighters. I mean, please don't tweet this, and I know you're all going to do it, but the newspaper industry was fat and lazy then. Very, very, very transactional. Business flying through the door, and the reps weren't selling, they were negotiating. Does that make sense? Especially on the classified side. I mean, they didn't worry about making sales, they worried about hang time. If you ever back then, all the rooms were war rooms and the phones were ringing, and they didn't know how to go out and mix it up as much. Where you guys were there. Remember, I came from radio. And radio, we knew how to mix it up as well. So that was his first prognostication. The second one is just flip me out. That does not say, this is 2009 now, that small businesses will be saved by the internet. It said their perception will be that the internet, you see, perception is reality. They were all looking at this geeky digital world to save their business. By the way, you might remember 2009 is when the Super Bowl, every other commercial, believe it or not, was GoDaddy and Groupon. Everybody was pouncing with .com this, .com that. And that sentence woke me up because if I may digress for a second, I'll dissect I'm here to show you what we're doing to take money. Let me show you my training process. I do basic sales training, and it may be very similar to how you train your reps when they're doing a first call. I call it client first selling. When you're getting your reps to get in the door, get around all the negativity, get around the rejection. We don't use media, we use word of mouth. We already have too much business. I heard that in Honduras last year in Spanish. I mean, we hear it everywhere. And I'm training a rep how to get around that gatekeeper. So I always start off with, I stole this, the old elevator statement. We craft it as a wow statement. And the wow statement usually is a benefit statement. Benefit, 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 no pain. My name is Mike. I work for the Times. You know who we are. But you may not know is I help over 45 businesses each week grow revenue, find customers, even in this tough economy. See, benefit, 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 no pain. Or return on investment. That's a no-brainer. But then I always have them followed up with a shiny toy statement. You don't just call it a business because it's Tuesday. You call it because you're excited. And my sales manager gave me a brand new exciting something. And I usually suggest it has a .com hook, something exciting, multimedia. And the reason, by the way, and I also you may do this as well, I know at this moment of truth when I'm training a sales rep that the prospect is about to say the dirtiest word in the world to the rep. It's a 2-letter word. It starts with N. It's coming up through his spine. His axons and dendrites are processing it. He wants to say the word no. No, we don't have time. No, we use word of mouth. No, our budget's gone. So I try to get the no out of the way by crafting a question where the answer is no. Do you see any reason why I can't ask you 4 questions, get the no out of the way, and then just garner the contact information for influencers and nail that first call for the needs analysis, ascertainment, or whatever. That's not why I'm not here to do sales training. That second statement, it all clicked in my brain now. Here I am at a conference, 2009. Gordon's always right, and he's predicting that small businesses saw the internet as their path to saving themselves. This really woke me. I was thinking, my God, this is it. I mean, find out what they want to give it to them is one of the most successful ways to run any deployment or any initiative. So we kind of changed our tune and started doing these tours. 2009, I decided to take these confused, very much interested in internet advertisers, bring the mountains to Mohammed, and I started doing workshops. Not only would I go in and train a sales force and then deploy a closing team, we just started bringing them into rooms. And I was like one of the first guys in the newspaper industry to exploit the workshop. And everybody's doing it. All the vendors, do it all the more. Now, back then, my topic was basically Google and Facebook. That's all they cared about, right? Google and Facebook. Actually, it's Google first. Then it was Facebook because the movie was coming out later on in the stocks and all that and more. But then it's advanced. Now we're 2014, and what do they really care about? They're looking at, and I know you know this because many of you are trying to sell these or you've read articles or research. We call them digital agency solutions. It means you're selling beyond your core competency. Our core competency for decades in traditional media was renting eyeballs, right? You have some form of content, you rent eyeballs against it, whether it's in print or online. Now we're selling stuff beyond our core competencies. Let's circle back to Gordon for a second, who defines the local digital spending of small businesses like a stool. And he's got 12% on banners. That's where we live mostly, banner ads, right? I mean, at least in our industry where I work, we have editorial content on the internet, we throw a banner ad next to it, whether it's stagnant, whether it's flash, whether it's search, retargeted, or geo, or demo, what have you, we're just putting a banner ad next to content. Then he goes on to coupons, deals, and SMS, which obviously Dick Larkin, you most probably know my buddy Dick, where he's doing a lot of stuff in mobile and SMS. But over here is the online marketing services, digital agency services, and he's got them all broken down into a bunch of geeky categories. Well, let me make it simple. If I have any street credibility for our hour together, and I'm making 5,000 calls a year in small businesses all over North America, I mean, we're all over Canada now, too. We got Transcontinental and Glacier, and we're closing deals, 66% closing ratios. Let me give you an idea of what we are selling. This is the list now of these services beyond core competencies: website development, SEO, search, and let me define them. Website development's a no-brainer. You heard about it earlier. Although I'm having trouble believing that number when I heard from our buzzboard guy, because in my opinion, I've read every piece of research that most small businesses, 90% or somewhere close to that, have a website. The trick is, what we usually say is a lot of businesses have websites and half of them hate them. Am I right? They hate them. They don't say they hate them when you do your needs analysis. They say what? They say it's in redevelopment. It hasn't been updated since the Bush years. And don't ask which Bush, right? This thing's been laying on the internet forever. We call it brochureware, and it's not mobile responsive. We got to fix it. And then SEO is when you take that website, the existing website of the advertiser, and you fix the keywords in it. And all the geeks know where to put them. They think they do. We'll check titling, the meta tags. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's taking these essential words and putting them in the right places. And then the second way that websites rise on Google is by links. It's called PageRank. Google operates by two, I'm breaking down all these geeky algorithms when Sergey invented it, but by two criteria. It's words and links. So there's a bunch of geeks in all your markets that do a geeky service called backlinking, where they find places on the internet to link back to a website. More links. See, Google rakes all that content millions of times a minute and shoves it into algorithms. Words and links, words and links. This is a service. Now, search engine marketing, correct me if I'm wrong, because I analyze all forms of local media sellers, and you guys sell some of that. It's a lot of it. And there's a lot of tendency now to take sales reps and make them Google AdWords certified. It means the right rail pay-per-click links. And you sell them to advertisers, you broker them, you manage them. Google makes most of the money, at least in my opinion. There's not a lot of profit in this one. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it's a good way to get in the door, provide a service, and we generally try to bundle that with something that's much more profitable. Maybe you have a better, and I would love to hear it as we're milling around or whatever. If, tell me if you can make it more profitable than I've seen it. Now, visibility I call claim and cleanse. I know Vendasta Technologies is here. If you go to their website, you'll see my picture, because we've launched this in hundreds and hundreds of cities. I'm not affiliated with them as far as an employee or getting a kickback, but they've made our company a kind of a blessed vendor who goes out and leverages it. I've been calling visibility claim and cleanse. And if you don't know what I mean, those Google Maps, which are essential for businesses to be found, Google never did any press releases. They never said to small businesses, you got to go to Google and you got to claim your listing. And you also should do it, Mr. Advertiser, on Bing and Yahoo. You got to go in there and do it. You got to have a Gmail account. It's free. They'll try to sell you advertising. Claim that listing. Populate it with information. Select your category. Make sure that the wording is just right. Get all that done, because we got to get you to rise on the map, because it ain't alphabetical and it ain't by geography. It's by Google's methodology. And businesses don't know this, but once they do know it, they know they have to do it. And then you got to cleanse the listing. Google goes out in what they now call the ecosystem. You don't have to write this down, but there are 4 major databases now governing all the data on the internet. And you can see them up there. I never can remember them when I try to say them. They're Localese, Dun & Bradstreet, Info USA, and Axiom. There they are. And you can see this ecosystem. Google's checking businesses all over the place. And if the data doesn't match, because one directory pulled it from one place and one directory pulled it from another place, what happens is it may negate that critical map listing. Now, also Vendasta Technologies and other companies offer what's called reputation monitoring. Here's an example of a speech I did in suburban Denver a couple of weeks ago. I showed an audience at 150, I was at the chamber, 150 small business owners. I'm looking for a dentist here in Lone Tree. Did you know now when you go to Google Maps and click on your map listing, up comes the data from Google+. These maps are now called Google Plus Places. And there's this information that was populated by Lone Tree Dentists and Orthodontics. You can see the picture they put there, all that and more. But what's this rating for 2.6? And the answer is Google knows the consumer craves this data and either has their users rant and rave, place comments, reviews, or rakes them from other places. And here's someone, I showed it to an audience, who trashed the dentist. And the business owner needs to, can't take that down, but needs to respond. I always say make lemonade out of lemons. When I have a group of business owners, I might show a bad review and say, then you put something there that says, from the owner, I am appalled someone had a bad experience with my business. Sir, here is my personal phone number. Here's my email address. Please contact me, because we care about every customer. You put a comment, or you can also put a comment about good reviews. And the other thing you can do is also solicit reviews. What I mean by solicit is when I travel 160 nights a year in hotels, I mean, they sometimes hand me a card when I check out saying, did you have a good experience? Please go on the internet and tell people, because the good ones will push the bad ones down. But here's a dentist that had let it fester for 2 years. He didn't know it was there. And again, you sell a service that shows a visibility meaning how they're listed across. I'm giving Vendasta a plug here, and I know they're part of your conference, but basically this is the one that we use at Gannett. That's a Hearst. I launched Hearst in Midland, Texas a few weeks ago. Again, I think Morris uses them. Gatehouse, one of my clients, uses them. And it lists where they are in the directories, gives them a back-end system to cleanse it, and then also monitors their reputation, can sell them an email alert, whether anyone says anything good or bad across hundreds of databases and directories. Then there's mobile. Now, there's two ways to fix mobile. If their site is not mobile responsive, mobile adaptive, I call it thumb ready. That's what I say in front of small business. If thumb ready, you may lose a customer. So you can either rebuild your entire website in new HTML5. That means it's now responsive. But most businesses need to fix it immediately, and I call this a side site. Odds are you're selling these now, mobile optimized site. I mean, it's not, well, here's how I do it. Here's a slide I show. I say, 90% of you are not mobile responsive. We can build a quick, down and dirty site. We rake your content, place it in a mobile platform. We kick back a little piece of code you shove in your site, and anytime someone comes to your website on an iPhone or an Android, it'll kick over to that and show the content in an easy-to-see way. Actually, I've done it. This is that client-first selling website, c1selling.com. When I built it, I didn't do it in HTML5 a couple of years ago, so now it looks like that. I use a company called Insequent, which is the back-end provider for Gatehouse and Gannett. It's a company that white labels this service, where it pulls the data and throws it in an optimized site. And then there's social networking assistance. What's that mean? It means that most small business owners know there's social networking, they know there's a Facebook and Twitter, but they have absolutely no time to manage it. Or they are there and they don't have any audience. And everywhere I go, there's my hotel in Vegas. I was at the mega conference a couple of weeks ago. They're blatantly trying to get me to like them on Facebook. Another hotel, I mean, I live in hotels. There's me getting a haircut in Florida, right? I mean, by the way, I'm wearing shorts because I live in Florida. But there I am. They're advertising. Here's my daughter's favorite fast food restaurant. She likes Chick-fil-A in Lutz, Florida, where I live. Look at the sign on the door. Again, fan us, like us, whatever. Whenever I look at someone's Facebook page, a business owner, I analyze two metrics. I'm always looking for two things. I'm looking for content and audience, because that's the giveaway. I mean, the gentleman who spoke earlier was talking about that. I can give you instant metrics on, who's on Facebook and whether or not they have audience. Now, here's an example of my daughter's favorite fast food restaurant. I didn't know there was a kids' night because I hadn't liked the page. It wasn't showing up in my news feed. I mean, that's the secret. Business owners have to get their content into the news feed between grandma, my kid in college, my friend from high school, and there's a business. You got to like the business or friend the person. And I didn't, he's having fun. The entire state of Florida should be happy about our weather. He's making fun. He's doing all that to 100 people. I could shout loud and talk to more than 100 people. Whenever I see that, I always say the guy's got a billboard in his basement. And we got to fix that. We have a solution. By the way, I'm convinced, because we engage with thousands of business owners, that some of them have given up on their website. Facebook's their website now. That's where the updates are. That's where they're pushing all their effort. And so we should be analyzing that just as much. Again, what I heard earlier is important. Do we have the data? Are we training our reps to do this on their own? Look at their Facebook page before you make a sales call. Or prospect that way. Go out on the internet. You can go to Google and type in the word Facebook and the name of your town, and they'll show you Facebook pages. I mean, you just find them, and you find people who need help. So anyway, there they are. Now, Who should sell this? I will show you us pesky competitor stuff in a moment, but now there's a dialogue. Who sells this stuff? Does the traditional legacy rep sell it, or do you have a separate guy do it, right? I mean, that's the big decision. And we've been battling that in radio, television, and newspapers for years. I was in a battle on that at an INMA conference in Copenhagen a couple of years ago, where they put me on a stage. I mean, can traditional ad reps sell the internet? This guy said, never, never. Don't let them sell it. Get someone else to do it. Well, I maintain that Gordon is correct. Again, I love this guy. You'll have him tomorrow. He is brilliant. And he does have data that proves that when you have a separate digital guy, you're going to make more money. But I don't think you should throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think there are some things you got to train them up or train them out. And there are other things that if you make them sell it, they're so geeky, it slows them down. I mean, they're not going to make the 6, 8, 9 calls a day you require of them. So we've made it I mean, we're doing this for years, so I'm going to give you my list, if you don't mind. Legacy sales reps need assistance with website development. If you're selling website development, it takes forever to collect the content. Am I right? I mean, you know, I'm taking my pictures next week. Come on back. The blue doesn't look the green. They can get the lead generated, understand, do the needs analysis. They don't have to hand it off to service this sucker. I mean, whether you hand it off to an off-site vendor, but I still think you may need a specialist in-house to hold the hand through the process rather than someone on the phone. SEO. I'm not talking. SEO means we're going to, Mr. Advertiser, we're going to go into your website, got to get those codes, go find the geek. We're going to fix the words, we're going to negotiate links. And this, they always have an unrealistic expectation. The site's going to magically show up on the first page of Google tomorrow. Am I right? I mean, you got to really, you got to limit that expectation, and you got to educate them through the process. Search engine marketing. I don't think every sales rep has to be Google AdWords certified running around selling right rail. I think they can find the need and then hand it off. And social networking management. See, I'm going to dissect this one in a moment. What I mean by management is you say to the guy, we're going to handle your Facebook page for you. We're going to handle your Twitter. We're going to handle your Instagram or your Pinterest or Google+. That requires hand, because there's a lot of dialogue in that. Well, which social networking channel is appropriate? What content are we going to use? How can we augment that? Because a good business doesn't just post a commercial all the time, right? They have to have relevant content. They have to constantly find creative things to shove up there beyond, hey, we're having a sale. Here's a list. I mean, real estate agents need to find content that shows that they're people valuable to list homes with. So they should be putting up articles on how to find better loans or increase the value of your home or something, and then every now and then a listing. So those, I think, need help. Now, I think I can get a rep to sell Claim and Cleanse. And I hope my buddies from Vendasta in the back of the room agree with me. I think they should. This is not difficult to sell, and by the way, reputation. If they can, I mean, that's one that I think a sales rep should be able to take to market. Mobile sites. We're not fixing your website yet. This may be not the final solution. How I present it is, Mr. Advertiser, someday in the next year or two, you'll likely have to rebuild your website, but you're losing a customer tomorrow. So in 48 hours, we'll have a side site. That's how I call it, a side site, a mobile optimized platform ready for you. Kick this code back, and it'll save you for now. And they're cheap and easy to deploy. And see, this is my new one, limited social assistance. I'm going to define it for you. I kind of invented a new model in this, where we're helping the guy that's got the billboard in the basement. Does that make sense? We're going to do some stuff with social networking, so we're positioned there, but maybe not manage. So here's my list, and I hope you agree. By the way, the separate digital salesperson, if you have one, I'm going to give you a new title. I don't know if he should be the digital sales manager. I'd now call him the digital evangelist. He's evangelizing to this reps and to the community and to any advertiser. And there's certain ways you want to comp them. This is my 2 cents. If you have someone focusing on digital, don't make him the enemy. What do I mean by the enemy? If you comp them on personal sales only, they're going to do everything they can to land a deal. The rep that's in the traditional legacy rep in your team will resent him. They could be playing golf together every week, but he still hates him because he's the enemy. So he will hose him even if you force a 4-legged sales call and take him to non-decision makers and gatekeepers. They'll just, I'm not letting this guy see my decision maker because I'm not going to lose. You want to give this guy compensation on total digital sales, so he doesn't care who sells it. I'll sell it, he sells it, as long as it gets sold, and make sure he has some form of empathy for your sales department. He's part of the team. All right, now, am I a pesky competitor? Well, let's find out. I'll take you into one of the markets. Maybe some of you guys have books in there. I didn't get the list of all of you, but I know that you may be, this is we're running through this contract as we speak. I'm leaving here in 3 hours to fly to Norfolk to work there because we have 44 newspapers to get through in 2 months. And I just picked up another big contract where I'm working up in Canada, all through Eastern Canada now, a company called Transcontinental Media out of Halifax. And we're running the Glacier. So sometimes we get hired by large groups and we run through. So I'm going to dissect this deployment as a pesky competitor and how we're generating. With this company, we're doing really well. And you can analyze if I'm pesky and proud. How does that sound? And as I go into these markets and do these deployments, now we're already at $1.1 million. And by the way, I don't know if you can see that, but our closing ratios are 67% in front of qualified decision makers, contract retention 80%. So we're a competitor. We're taking these monies out of the market. These are full year contracts we're selling. So what are we selling? Let's talk about that first. Let's go back to our list. Now, this is a service I provide. I mean, I consult. Once they pick their digital strategies, and this is the ones I'm taking to market for Boone now. SEO, claim and cleanse, reputation management, and social networking assistance. Now, keep in mind, 2 of those I already said to you are hard to sell. And Boone doesn't have a lot of digital evangelists. They're cheap. And you don't tweet that, but they are. They just want their traditional ad reps to sell digital, and they don't want to hire a whole separate sales team. Whether that's good or bad isn't the decision. That's their decision. So here's how we kind of fix some things. I call it now light. Can I do an SEO play that's not really, we'll take over your website, Mr. Advertiser, fix the keywords and do the backlinking? Can I find a solution which gives them some search engine optimization? And then can I give them some social networking assistance that doesn't require me to have long dialogues whether they should be on Facebook or Twitter or this or that? All right, so we'll start off with SEO light. I'm not saying this is what I want to do. This is what we are doing. I'm not that comfortable sometimes selling a directory product, which many of you do. This is local.com out of Irvine, California. They've cobbled together a list of every small business in North America. We hang that directory. Oh, by the way, you can see there we're marketing my workshop in the top right corner. Just noted, yeah. I hope their website traffic didn't drop when they put my picture there. But on the bottom is a find it directory, and that's local.com rebranded. And what you can do is any business can go in there, and it's kind of a light version of SEO. And any reader, type in any business category, up comes a list of local businesses. We enhance their status. We give them a kind of a modicum of a landing page, and that usually shows up in search engines because the directory is hung on this popular website, right? The newspaper or what any media company usually has a lot of popularity on Google and Yahoo and Bing, and we get a little SEO cooking. And then we have a landing page. And we sell a landing page like many of you guys sell. It's a rudimentary page, throw a photo up, maps and directions, and all that and more. Now, Claim and Cleanse is part of this mix. That's the Vendasta tool, where we give them the ability to monitor how they're doing across all those directories, and they can fix it. They can click a few buttons and fix it if they want, and it even shows them, let me continue this journey. So go back. It even monitors their reputation. So we got Claim and Cleanse and reputation coming out of one vendor tool. And they negotiated at Boone a good contract with them because we're running through 44 papers. So there's a good markup on this tool. Now, social networking assistance goes to this overused term now you may have heard of called native advertising. I'm sure you're hearing about it. It's a funny story. This is my client in Chicago. I had never heard the term a year ago this month. And they're doing it. Actually, that's a funny story. Here's what it looks like. The Chicago Sun-Times has gone ballistic on native advertising. The gentleman there, Tim Landon, who started Cars.com at Tribune, is now running the show. He's invested a lot of energy and effort into this deployment. So if I take you to one of their suburban sites in Naperville, what you got going on here, native advertising is a trick where you're blurring the lines of church and state. Look at that top tray there. Notice how there's a business story followed by a, here it goes, sponsored story. You're tricking an eyeball. You're saying to the eyeball, okay, is this editorial, is this advertising? And the more you trick the eyeball, the better someone engages into the content, because most eyeballs on the websites know an ad now, right? They know what a box looks like or a text link. So the game is on now. How can we trick an eyeball, make somebody think they're looking at editorial, and throw in a piece of advertising? And it's not just on the tray you see at the top. Smattering around this page is a whole mess of stuff. And then they craft, let me say that again, they craft the article for the advertiser. That's we're writing an article about an advertiser. There's an advertorial writer. There's the word I just said it. Advertorial writer crafting an article that lives on the website. Now, the buzz is out. This is a huge, huge thing. Madison Avenue wants the heck out of this because people's eyeballs are getting tricked and people are reading these articles, so every major brand is now into it, for now. Whether it's a fad or it's here forever, we'll yet to see. But there's supposedly tons of money there. By the way, funny story, when I'm at the Sun-Times and they introduced me to this concept a year ago, I had never heard the word native in my life. So I'm sitting in a big boardroom, and here's one of my largest clients, and we're going to do a native play. And, I have to shut up. I call it the consultant shuffle, where you just smile and listen. Maybe through context, I'll figure out what the heck they're talking about. 2 minutes into this thing, I look at a geek next to me. This is a true story. Guy's like, I got shoes older than him. He's like 19. And I kick him, and I say, advertorial. He said, no, native, not advertorial. It's advertorial. I've been doing this for 35 years. I've been selling Ask the Experts for years. I did this on radio during the 80s. Remember the down economy? I would put a spot on saying, good news update. When you have a newsy voice, it's all over no, it's I went to Wikipedia after the meeting and I looked up native advertising. In the first paragraph, it says advertorial. Na. But it's not, in a way, because you're really crafting this content and when I do workshops on this, I use the word commingle, infuse, inject. That's the trick. And yeah, there's a bunch of debate about it right now on whether or not it's going to continue or if it's hurting the brand. But let's dive into how I'm doing it. See, my light version of this native advertising thing, Facebook's already doing. When you go to Facebook, how did they start making money and how did this start? They figured it out. In your newsfeed now are ads you didn't ask for. And it tricks your eyeball. There's grandma, kid in college, friend from high school, bam, there's an advertiser. And that can be search retargeted. You've seen it, right? You're searching for a vacuum cleaner, 2 seconds later you're on Facebook, there's the vacuum cleaner, right? Right in your, you, ladies and gentlemen, you are being profiled. Everybody say duh. That's what Gmail is. That's what Facebook is. That's why it's all free, because all this data is being collected about you, and we sell that inventory. So I did it 2 years ago with Boone, a year and a half ago, before I knew what it was. Boone's done an incredible job building a social networking footprint, which is important for newspapers, because right now somewhere north of 70% of their audience doesn't come from people going to their website, typing in the URL. They go to Google and type in the name of the high school football coach or a local judge. And they're so SEO friendly, their articles show up. But research, I've read from some pundits, says that will shift to social networking over time, Facebook and Twitter. People want to see the news in these feeds. So they've been working hard. Their editorial team posts cool stuff. I mean, I don't know if that's cool. Daylight savings time. By the way, I do a lot of social networking workshops. Can't go wrong with dogs and kids. Right? You throw a dog or a kid up that, and everybody stops and reacts and likes. So, they're throwing kids up there. Look, 58 people like this kid. They have a kid of a day now. And not to bore you, and we don't have all the time in the world, but that business pages on Facebook don't show up in news feeds as much unless they get a lot of engagement. The algorithms shift. That's why they want you to boost your post now. If you got boring content for your business, you need billboard and basement. So look at this, 58 people like the kid. More kids. Boy, can't go wrong with kids, right? They should have a dog in there. And here's a local political story. Because, by the way, if you ever work in Alabama on a Sunday, in some counties, you can't get a drink. So they're trying to repeal the blue laws. Now, here's an advertisement. We inserted commingled, inject, whatever you want to call it, already. We've been doing it. So I was doing native before I knew what native was. That doesn't look like an advertisement. It's just the team of a local medicine shop. 40 people like it. They're commenting about this ad. And the neat thing about the trick is, remember now, when you do this native play, what you're doing is you're inserting the content in the newsfeed blessed by the masthead. So the eye's tricked again. There's grandma, kid in college, friend from high school. Bam, newspaper masthead, advertisement. So it's working. We've done, not every newspaper lets me do this. I sometimes get slapped around by the editorial side. They throw me out and kick me out, but mostly I can get this done. And it works. And then we have yet to see one bit of erosion. We let editorial reject anything stupid, right? Edgy, off-color, political, or downright boring, or they can modify it and change it. So I'm blurring lines here, because we actually hand it off to editorial. They insert it. So they have some fun with it, make it more exciting. Now here's the second thing. I'm going to take credit for this. I invented this tool in Frederick, Maryland, 2 years ago with a great publisher named Geordie Wilson. Geordie is a PhD Harvard graduate guy. We realize there's so many billboards in the basement in social networking, and any advertiser can take their Facebook feed and shove it on their website. That's simple. Or Twitter. You just go to the Facebook page, you grab some code, you shove it onto your website. But what if you could do multiple feeds from multiple businesses in one box? So we invented a box we call Friends to Follow. This one, they changed the name, the Business Buzz. But now it's pulling Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram from anyone we program in. So we started first with like the Y, the Chamber, the City Council, and then we sell advertisers into it. So now they're doing all the work, right? This is do-it-yourself advertising on steroids. Now, you can only turn on an advertiser who is doing social networking. If he doesn't have a Facebook page, this may not turn him on, but it could force him to get into it, and it's also rewarding the last 15 posts. The moment the page loads, I don't want to get too geeky, it slams in there the last 15, so the guy that's updating the most is getting the reward. You don't promise impressions on this. It's just the guy that's working the hardest. So force them to take social networking seriously. We don't police it. There is a back-end tool. Actually, the back-end tool is kind of cool because you can police it and take something out. But it only lives for a few minutes anyway, because remember, the next 15 are getting scooped in. What I love about this tool, and it's kind of a buzzboard light, is it does have a map that shows you everybody in town on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And most important, remember I said content and audience. It shows you if they're updating and if anyone sees it. The perfect guy for this is the guy that's updating with no audience, which is a lot of people. How many times have you gone to a page for one of your advertisers and seen tons of content? They're working it to death, or the kid is for them, or the receptionist, and there's 150 likes, 200 likes. They eat this up. And you can also prospect with it. So it's a cool little tool. All right, so now the second mission, because I'm a pesky competitor, is to sell the boring stuff. The inches and the impressions. See, that's boring now. That's what we've sold for decades, right? Renting eyeballs. When I train sales reps, I say, you rent an eyeball for a living. So I'm now using this new digital cool stuff to sell the other stuff. And that's what you're going to see now as I dissect the model. So let's get to work. And first of all, when I sell inches and impressions, I am not a big believer in this acronym CPM. You may disagree. But the only time an advertiser ever sees a Roman numeral is the Super Bowl. Do we agree? So if you want to bore an advertiser, start talking, I'm going to sell you 50,000 impressions. And a lot of my clients shifted back to that because the geeks said, let's sell impression-based. Let's sell impression-based. I'm okay selling impression-based. I just don't want to tell the advertiser I'm doing that because he doesn't understand it. By the way, this is where the newspaper industry totally screwed up. Their rate card is based on column inches. I mean, they want to go out and tell it out, you have to buy so many, and they don't understand. I always say that rate cards are meant to be left in your drawer to build a proposal. But you don't tell them the column inch rate. You don't tell them the cost per thousand. You just know what it is in your brain. So when I sell, Boone says $10 cost per thousand minimum on inventory. So I kill the CPM thing and sell it in a model we call share of voice. I simply subdivide the inventory. If I got 1 million of those suckers to sell, I may give 50,000 to 20 advertisers. $500 a month of that package is now this inventory. Does that make sense? Share of voice. I'm just subdividing it. I'm achieving the cost per thousand, but I'm not boring the advertiser with a bunch of geek speak that he doesn't understand. I'm talking small businesses here. We've closed 11.2 million plus last year. Average order, $6,000. A lot of little orders, a lot of little businesses, chiropractors, auto aftermarket. We're closing the little guys. I don't want to have to educate them. And so I also like it because it goes back to the limited availability. Only 20 will share this position. 12 are gone, only 8 left. Give me a no, give me a yes, and no is okay. That's how we like to close the deal. And then I can also throw print in. There's nothing wrong with print. It's not sexy. It's not fun. Remember, I showed you Gordon's slide. They think the web's going to save them. Print's not the shiny toy. I don't think there's anything wrong with the phone book. I think it has great reach. I saw incredible data this morning. The problem is it's old. Everybody wants to buy something new, am I right? Something exciting. I always joke with the newspaper industry, your problem is not reach and results. Your problem is a Time News Roman masthead. It's 150 years old. Needs something new. All right, so here's what you can do. This is we create decks, and you can download this deck. It's ready to go. There's been an address in the bottom left of the screen, blindergroup.com/getinfo. Notice it's lowercase. Has every slide I've showed you so far, every slide and every deck I'm about to show you, plus all our setup materials, links for everything. Even the vendors I mentioned is in one. I just uploaded it this morning, so there's your download. But let's run through the deck, because we build a deck to train the sales reps to sell with a model called ABCD. I'm really now taking my training, which takes like 3 hours with the reps before we even go to market, and giving it to you in like a minute, but you always lead with audience first, A. Then go to the bundle, B. then go to the creative, C, and then go to the deal, D. Now, the creative should be a spec if we can, and I could spend hours teaching you why I believe in spec selling. I'm sure many of you do it. Because, the trick with a spec, I call it hypnotic closing, is if I have the unmitigated goal to put an ad in front of an advertiser during the closing process before he bought it, and many of you know this, they start correcting it. Am I right? And why would anyone correct anything they don't own? And this is when I'm kicking the rep under the table and saying, we're closed, shut up, no more feature benefit, let's sign the deal, get out of here. I sometimes argue with them. I hate the green, and I might even, I like the green. No, the green, okay, we'll make it blue, we'll start Monday, we're fine, So I get into specs if I can get them. If not, we can do it, orally or emotionally. So, page 1, there's a cover page. You can download all this. We establish the audience any way we can. If I've got local research, if they buy it, I love it. That's why, again, I love the Compass studies that Burrell puts out. But I love all research, but if I don't, I find national stuff. Anything I can get my hands on, I will use to establish, because you have to have some street cred with audience. And I heard tons of that this morning. You guys have killer data. I would bullet it on the first page. Establish the credibility of the product. Then, I always start digital. This is funny, because when I started the company 17 years ago, I was leading with print to sell digital. Because print was no one knew what the internet was. Yeah, and your ad will be on the internet. What's it mean? Don't worry, just do it. It's like it's going to be somewhere on the website. Now we lead with the digital stuff and get the print sold. And again, I'm selling a big box ad. I'm limiting it to 25 advertisers. Again, limited availability. We run that across the mobile platform. We don't nickel and dime the advertiser. We got this ad running across all platforms. And then we talk about print. We put the website and print together, 72% market reach, according to the Newspaper Association of America, throw in the print ad. And now I'm playing native advertising. We got a dominant Facebook presence. I'm going to commingle, infuse, inject your content in front of our audience. Now, this is cool even if they don't have Facebook. If this is someone who has yet to start Twitter or Facebook, those are the two biggies, mostly Facebook. Do we agree? When you're in front of a small business, what I just read, 75% of small businesses have Facebook pages, but only 60% update them. And that can be detrimental to a business, right? It makes them look like they're out of business or they don't care about their business. But if I can find the guy that is updating it, he's great for some. But this could be for a guy that doesn't have it. He just wants us to give us content. And he can give us 4 or 5 or 6 sentences, and we'll insert it in our Facebook. Then, remember this tool, the friends to follow. We injected that in there as well. This is for the guy who is updating social networking. We simply, here's a word I made up, externalize. Don't play that on Scrabble, but that's one I made up. I always call it, we're going to externalize your content in front of more eyeballs and show how their social networking update is appearing on this website. And then we got the directory product, which is, on every website. People can search for your business. We enhance it. We have a chance for SEO. We really play this down. We got to train the rep to under-promise and over-deliver. What they say, and I make them rehearse it, and I actually do role-playing, Mr. Advertiser, nobody can predict Google. Nobody. Not that geek knocking on your door, not that guy calling you from India, nobody. And I can't either. I can predict that I am popular on Google, because if you type in the name of this town, I'm on the first page. Ergo, this directory has a good shot of showing up. But sometimes they show and sometimes they don't. So we play this down. Never promise, if you do this, that you're going to get great SEO. Then we've got the Vendasta tool. We'll monitor your critical reputation, and we'll claim and cleanse you. And we package it up. This is what, a $5,300 order. And we close north of 66%, 65% of them small businesses, 80% contract retention, 80% retention after 6 months, and then 50% re-sign the next year. So we're doing okay with these bundles where we take the geeky stuff, the digital solutions, and land a lot of small businesses. Now, how are we selling it? I kind of alluded to it earlier. Here's the challenge, correct me if I'm wrong. That stuff requires education. I mean, every business deep in their heart knows they need to buy some form of marketing. Am I right? That stuff, word of mouth, we already have too much business. Isn't that amazing? How many times have you heard that? That's like a communist, right? We go home at night and give our money back. That's all objections that aren't real. Deep in their soul, they know to market. You just got to get around that, build the right rapport, and establish that credibility so they open up to you. If I believe that stuff, I'd be out of business, because no media company has a budget for me, right? I mean, I have to go in there and work it. But when you get into this stuff, they don't even know what claim and cleanse is, or reputation, or mobile sites, or social networking assistance. So the problem is you got to educate them, then you got to create fear of loss. I mean, it's a 2-step process. They got to know how Google Maps work, and then explain to them, without making them seem like an idiot. You're going to die if you don't do this because your competitor is going to, rise. So how we normally do it is through the workshops. So I'm going to dissect that for you now. And I do them, and some of my team does them, and I'm doing 3 tomorrow. I'll be in suburban Norfolk tomorrow doing these suckers. Now, here's how we set it up, because I'm a competitor. I'll show you everything we do. We first do the planning. We figure out what tools they need or don't have. What are they selling? Sometimes we're putting lipstick on a pig. I mean, it's a product come on, they're paying us to sell it, and we know it's not the best thing to do, but we're stuck with it. Then we build the program I showed you, and we build it all out and get the local market to approve it. A, B, C, D. And these things are built so they can, we can work with them. It's not like we're forcing it down the advertiser's throat. We can pull out, we can add in, we can add more inches, we can add more impressions. Next, I go in and do a psych session webinar before. 3 weeks before an engagement, I'm working with the guys and I give them a success kit. By the way, you can download our success kit. I promised Cindy when she booked me for this, I'd give everything away. So you can mimic it. And here's who we target, so you know who your pesky competitor is going after. There's your word right there, because this is a newspaper deployment. I'm going after existing advertisers who are buying yellow pages, or cable, or radio, broadcast, outdoor, direct mail, or pure plays. And I always say to the rep, if you're leaving meat on the table, and you know in your heart of hearts they can spend more, let's go get them. Then we go after dormant, because infused in our message is reach and frequency. If a guy just one-ups a media company, we say, you got to be out there. We have a whole mess of data we show about there's no brand loyalty in today's society. Everybody's fickle. I actually have fun with the audience. I'll do it tomorrow. Come to Florida, where every street corner is the corner of CVS and Walgreens, right? And everybody laughs. And I show them, but how do they bring you in? Milk, eggs, and pop, like a commodity. Back of the store, it's a loss leader. And then and I'm always showing how we have a fickle society with no brand loyalty. So go after the dormant. Then new prospects, what a great way to break the ice. Now, here's a list. You can download it. I can't believe I'm getting this away, of our best bets. Of the top businesses we're closing. And by the way, there are a lot of yellow page categories in there. Auto aftermarket is on fire, right? I mean, even Ford's got that guy with the hat pushing $29.95 oil changes and tires. Home improvement on fire. If I may quote my buddy Dick Larkin, I know a lot of you know him, the Yellow Page Commando, spoke at my conference 2 years ago, stood in front of the audience and said, any guy with a white truck and a ladder is fair game, right? And if you don't believe that 3 truck heating and air conditioning guys got money, think again. And then healthcare. But I call that one paint and body work. Am I right? I mean, cosmetic dentistry, audiology, doc in the box, that's what I call an urgent care. These guys are on fire now. They're looking, and then legal, I should throw that up there now. Lawyers, we're finally getting our fair share of lawyers. And then all the other traditional categories. You can download this. This is our acronym for the perfect appointment. We call it a DELMAR. When we're training the reps, get us in front of a decision maker of an established business with a local focus, with a marketing budget who can afford the offering. Then we dissect rapport. And the workshops are a great way to build rapport. And then we start this database. You can actually get a link to it. You can actually see every market I'm going to. And we call it localmediaworkshops.com. We actually market this web address where everybody who's going to register, whether it's an email push, we had 140 chambers bless us last year in markets. So the chambers blasting out emails. And then if the rep invites someone who says they're going to come, they input it in the database as well, because an email automatically comes out to that prospect and reminding them they're coming, and then we can push it out again and again. So it's one happy database. You'll see tomorrow I'm in Suffolk, Virginia. There's the page. I'm going to be doing a 12 noon tomorrow after I train the reps in the morning at this Hilton Garden Inn. Then I have to go to another Hilton Garden Inn and do a morning one the next day. So this is my day tomorrow, and we've already got like 100 business owners. By the way, here's some ratios if you want to know. 60% show rate at workshops. 1.5 bodies per business. I've got this, I can tell you exactly how many we're going to come. And then there's a qualification tool in there where we qualify the business. You can steal it and use it. And then we do the on-site training. By the way, tables in the round are critical. It's not a deal breaker, but I can get the rep to sit at one table, hits his office. And it's funny, when I stop talking, I shut up. I don't take questions, because if I do, it turns into a kegger, right? Someone says, hey, I heard Facebook does this. I heard Google does this. And we get this down to a kind of a science. By the way, here's the secret sauce for the workshops. There's me doing one. Number 1, create fear of loss. Create fear of loss. Educate fear of loss. And it's got to be informational, not a timeshare meeting, not an Amway meeting. It's highly informational. Then show a discounted limited availability solution at the end, and then have an incentive for follow-up. By the way, I'm going to show you my Gatehouse tour last year. Gatehouse is a lot of small markets. I did 75 of their markets last year. They worked me hard. And here's the promo they built from one of my workshops, just so you can see how it works. We need volume on this, guys, if that's okay. If you're a business owner, solo mo. Solo mo. Social, local, mobile. Facebook. But it's the #1 website in North America, making it the #1 website your customers are on. 94% of you have websites. That's a fact. And half of you don't like them. You tossed it to the cloud and want mobile. That's where you went. You spend 2.7 hours a day looking at this intimate device. That's scary, isn't it? It's shopping, entertainment, technology, travel, finance, dining, even cars. All right, just a promo, but it's fun. By the way, Solo Mo, I didn't make that up. It's an acronym I use a lot when I'm doing these workshops. John Doerr did, venture capitalist, Silicon Valley. This guy's brilliant, like Gordon. Remember I said, this guy's like, I always joke and say, these guys who are so smart who can predict the future are like Wayne Gretzky, which might seem odd because Wayne's, what, a hockey player. But the best quote of Wayne Gretzky's is when he was asked by media why he was so good at hockey, he said, I skate to where the puck is going. And I'm not the guy. Remember I said, I'm the money guy. Don't ask me about the next 5 years. I'm the guy that gets hired. But he's the one that wrote the op-ed piece in the New York Times and said it's all about solo mo, so it's always social, local, mobile. So sometimes I will run the whole workshop starting off with John Doerr and doing it that way. Now, at the end, here's the secret sauce. I say, I have an associate coming to town next week who doesn't work on commission. By the way, that's what I do. This guy is a closer, doesn't work on commission. That might seem odd, but I don't want him rolling over the rep and closing deals that aren't going to stick, and I don't want him not caring about the rep. He's learned to bury his ego, ride with the rep. He gets different metrics for success, but he knows he must close the deal to shift the culture. Show the rep that you don't have to be a geek to sell this stuff. And then I actually say he's going to be here for a limited time. We're going to do some analysis on your business. That's why I love tools like Buzzboard or Compass reports. If I can have some data to shake in front of them, we'll do an exclusive, proprietary piece of info. Can't give it to you now. We have to bring it to you because this is expensive stuff. And Bob will analyze it for you. Now I'm trained. So here's the example for Hearst. When we did it for Hearst, we were using the Vendasta tool. Here's what we make people fill out at the workshop. Everybody fills it out. The challenge is you got to separate the wheat from the chaff. We put a board in the room. This was last week. I've got advertisers fighting over a magic marker for an appointment. I mean, talk about an onboarding system, am I right? I mean, I am just like, problem is you get retirees thinking of going into business in 5 years. You get the guy, I mean, you got to get the ad director to go through this now and pull some things off and do some stuff on his own, because I can't waste my closer's time, who's really not a closer, but he is, the following week. That's why the Delmar, that's why we have a meeting afterwards and say, now who are Delmars, who aren't, because let's pull the ones out that aren't right. But imagine, it's exciting. And then we just do the sales SWAT week, and that's where we bring in the guy and do it. Now, there's different models. I'm almost done. This is a Blethen paper, Walla Walla, Washington. They're owned by the Seattle, and we did the Seattle paper too. Here's you're seeing an example of 4 days of sales, $95,000. Almost the same model, but we added in some other tool. Let me run it through. You can download this one as well. Now here, again, ABCD, audience first. We're doing a share of voice banner ad. They didn't give me a good one. They gave me one below the fold. I hate when they do that. But they had such a strong sales force that most of their inventory was sold. So I'm now pushing a below the fold ad. Oh, notice I'll go back, 17 advertisers only. Limited availability. The print industry doesn't get this, you guys do. Correct me if I'm wrong, but the book has a deadline. You're in or out. But see, I came from radio and television. For 17 years, I was managing radio and TV stations, and I used to joke, Mr. Advertiser, I wish I could pick up the phone and call the National Bureau of Standards and buy another hour tomorrow. I can't. And so we were always living supply and demand. The print industry, the newspaper industry, when demand increases, they just add pages. And that blows the whole idea of limited availability. So we force it on them. 17 only, 20 only. And then we did the mobile tie-in as well. We did the print ad. Remember, I'm burying the print. And you'll be able to download these if I'm going too fast. Here's that mobile side site. Here's Friends to Follow. They're doing that at the Blethen papers as well. And then we're throwing in reputation visibility. Again, the Vendasta tool. It's not just Vendasta. I don't want to, this is not a commercial for these guys. I know they're one of your sponsors, but there are other tools that use it. Just so happens most of the media companies I work with use them because all the big players want it, and it's a nice white label tool. And this one came in at $99 a week. Now, let's go into native. I still have a few more minutes and I'll take questions. Give me 5 more. I promised Cindy I'd take questions. This is where I was 3 weeks ago, surrounding Denver. Every market around Denver except for Aurora. And if this guy, Jerry Healy, could buy that Aurora paper, he would. So now he's managing these. And remember, suburban papers are on fire now. This is why Warren Buffett's buying them. Another quote, Warren Buffett, when people are greedy, be fearful. When people are fearful, be greedy. And he's buying papers because now he's getting a good price. And these suburban papers are just on fire because these are hyper-local content newspapers where the big dailies don't have the resources to cover those markets, and neither do the TV stations. So you're getting these weeklies, and weeklies aren't that expensive to publish. You're not cutting trees down for publication every day now. So here we are, 23 community papers. There's their new website, and here's what I blended together, and I added the native hook. Now I'm going to take native on a new level. Okay. First thing we do is we got all the print ads shoveled online. Old concept, but they're coming up as thumbnails. So any print ad is automatically now searchable on the internet and also flying in onto the website, and you can share it, what have you. We had to train the reps now to build better print ads. Because you guys do this all the time, but maybe it works in the yellow pages, or the directory, I should say. But when you take that Chinese restaurant that wants to force their entire menu in a 1-by-1, and throw it in the paper, right? Oh, and we do bar mitzvahs too. This thing is just getting so cluttered. We got to fix it a little, and make it so it can be an instant thumbnail on the internet. So and by the way, I do believe less is more, white space good. Do we all agree? I always say Got Milk was not a bad campaign. Now we got the native play. We actually craft once a month an article for the advertiser. We stick it there. Now, it's not as blatant of separating church and state as the Chicago Sun-Times. We're now in the right rail. That's what it looks like, news from local businesses. And now he may insert that and commingle it more like the Chicago Sun-Times in a few months, but now we got it over on the right rail. That goes to an article page that we have crafted for the advertiser. And here's what's really cool. This is the trick, and I don't want to spend too much time on this, but there's a lot of companies now selling native solutions to local media. They got a network, like one's called Nativo, and they've got the national brands now saying, you find me inventory, and we'll craft the articles and shove them in. The challenge is with those plays is the pages that are built off the website are dynamic. They don't live until they're called up, which means there's no SEO. If I can get that page and convince the advertiser this has to be like evergreen content, let it cook on Google, I am now leveraging, let me say it again, leveraging the popularity of the newspaper to sell a really strong search engine optimization tool. Any geek out of a closet or a garage can go to a small business and say, I'll fix your keywords and I'll do some backlinking for you. This is a core competency. We should be doing more of this as media. No one else can sell this when you commingle the content in our existing content. By the way, you guys have already been doing that. Aren't most of your landing pages SEO enabled? You could start putting some content on there, but maybe you already are. All right, so anyway, here's the deck, my last deck to show you. It's all downloadable. Obviously, A, B, C, D, lead with audience. Then we were introducing a new website. So we were saying, hey, something new, something exciting. All print ads are now on the website. We're also selling an in-story ad position, share of voice, 15 advertisers only. Again, limited availability. Print ads are being seen as well. And here's the native play, the native content. And we put that on the internet as well. We even have a back-end tool the advertiser can go to and alter the content. And then, of course, it's SEO friendly. We did the Facebook push as well. So we allowed the content for the native play to go on Facebook. We added the mobile site. This one came from that vendor I told you about in Sequent. We blended in the Vendasta stuff as well, because I think every order should have claim and cleanse and reputation monitoring. They're easy to sell once you educate, create fear of loss. And if you do it right, we have a back-end, we actually went through a vendor that's managing this for these guys, and it's rocking. We sold the heck out of this. And again, we're showing, this is the visibility performance report. We're showing the reputation report. Now, here's how we educate the advertiser on a sales call about how Google needs to have your data cleansed. And we're showing the databases. You must cleanse your data. Remember, I said educate, create fear of loss. And there's the reputation monitoring. And the whole deal went down for $149 a week. We sold the living heck out of it. I know you're all bored, and I apologize. But we got a few minutes. I started a little early, but Cindy said I should leave. By the way, here you go again. All slides, blindergroup.com/getinfo. Everything's on the internet now for download. And you'll find everything there in a nice, cool spot, even links to the vendors I mentioned. If anything's missing, you can contact me. Is there any, how do you want me to handle this? Is there any question that I didn't cover? Any thoughts from the dark side? Remember, I'm a pesky competitor now. And I would be honored and pleased to address any topic. Anyone? Yes, sir. Shout it out as loud as you can. Go ahead. Oh, she wants a microphone. Are we being recorded? Okay, go ahead.
So with banners, how do you manage banner blindness?
Oh, banner what?
Banner blindness.
We call that banner burnout, but you're talking banner blindness.
Yes.
I force the reps. Well, I have a couple techniques. I make them sign a pledge. I didn't show it to you. That says I will serve this advertiser once a month. Their advertising is free. Not every publisher will let me shove that in there. So we force the guy to stop by once a month. Because the truth is, if you ever look at banner burnout, an average banner lasts about 7 days, maybe 8, and then you see this, because it turns into wallpaper. When you drive to work the same way every day, you never notice the billboard unless it's new. Am I right? It's human nature. So we force them to have a monthly meeting and try to do 2 updates. We say at least every other month. The second thing, and here's a technique you can steal, have the geek that's managing the inventory rat on them. If something stays stale on the website for more than 2 weeks, email should fly out to management. This banner must change. Now, you can train the reps to have, let's assume you're doing branding. I believe you can do branding on the internet. Top of mind awareness, we call it TOMA, where it doesn't have to be an offer for a click. But let's say I'm doing a hardware store. We just did this last week. I could take a different picture of every one of their sales reps. This is one of the smaller chains battling the big dog, box stores. And we're selling knowledge. So he have a quote, and then we have another guy, and then we will run a different version every week. Does that make sense? And then we had 5 different versions, so 5 weeks later, the next one comes in. You follow? So we're just running that way. But you can't leave the same banner on your website. It'll just die.
So what about click-through rate? Like how are you measuring click-through
Oh,
rates?
yeah. I mean, your advertisers aren't idiots. They know people are going to click an ad, am I right? So we first of all minimize expectations. What I do is I issue to a sales team every month, or I get the geek to do it for me, one document. It can be in an email where he shows the top 3 banners that were clicked versus the bottom 3. So the reps can get an idea of what copy's getting clicked. I had a 2.2% click-through rate 3 weeks ago. It was free popcorn on a Wednesday night at a movie theater. People will click ads if there's a reason to click. Do we all agree? And they won't click ads that have no reason to be. Well, the same thing with any form of advertising.
Is that, sorry to stop.
Go ahead, please.
Is that the highest you've seen, 2.2%?
No, I've seen a little north of 3.
Okay.
But it depends on the offer. I mean, it's got to say free, it's got to say now, it's got to be limited. I mean, the secret to success in any form of media is reach, frequency, offer, and immediacy. Do we agree? That hasn't changed since the first caveman tried to sell something. But you need that offer and immediacy to get the click. It has to be worded just right. So if they see every month a document that says this one got clicked, this one didn't, it trains them to say to an advertiser, you can do that, but it's not going to get a lot of clicks. From the start, you minimize expectations. Here's a secret we train reps. Never say to an advertiser, how did your ad work? You say, how did your offer work against my audience? Right? You put it back on them, right? Bad ads don't work. Yes, sir. Well, thank you. Other questions while I'm standing up here as your pesky competitor? Yes, ma'am.
Mike, in your claiming cleanse theory, when you talk about fixing keywords, Google does not allow us to enter keywords like they used to. They have a drop box now. We can only choose keywords that they allow us
you're talking about when you claim their map listing.
Yes, yes.
What you do is you go in, they have thousands of categories. You get up to 5 on Google. Google Maps just shifted 3 weeks ago.
That's correct.
I hate them. Who hates Google Maps? I mean, they suck now. They're awful. They're not as friendly. Why did they fix something that wasn't broken? That's right. Yes. I can't even search nearby my hotel anymore to find a bar. But no, most of them haven't even picked their 5 categories. And what we suggest to the advertiser, that 200-character paragraph you write about your business, it is my geeks. No geek knows how Google works but Google. Do we know that? Google doesn't have press conferences like Apple. I have a buddy who works there. I saw in Vegas a couple weeks ago. I plied him with alcohol. He wouldn't tell me a thing because he signed an NDA. However, I pay a geek from one of the top media companies in the world. He's not allowed to moonlight, so I pay him airline miles. I'm not even allowed to tell you where he works, Gannett. And what he does, he says that they index the 200-character paragraph. Does that make sense? You can see that with keywords. Plus the title. My accountant in Tampa, Florida was listed on Google Maps as Kevin J. Cameron, LLC, period. I changed its name to Kevin Cameron Tax Planning and Accounting Services. Am I right, Mr. Van Doster? Are you back there? I think you can change the title of the business to increase more relevance as well. These are all things you can do, but you're right. You don't seed a lot of keywords in your Google Map listing, but you can put them into the descriptive paragraph.
Thank you.
My pleasure. At least but I don't know anything, right? I'm just going with what I learned. I mean, because Google's Google, and they're shifting everything now. The maps totally changed like 2 weeks ago. Yes, sir.
One of your most interesting concepts is friends to follow. Could you just talk a little bit more about that?
It's just a cool idea. Everywhere we go, we see people using Facebook instead of their website, and no audience. Because what are they going to put a sign on their business, like us? I mean, some people are very creative and they're building audience. They use tools like contesting, and they find ways to do it, but most need help. So it's friendstofollow.com. I don't get a kickback. Go look at it. I invented it, but there's 2 geeks that are young now running this little company. I've launched it in 50, 60 cities, where you can stick this on a web page. I'll show it to you again. And you program in any social networking feed you want in that sucker. So we usually say seed it with local, how should I put this? Seed it with the YMCA and the chamber first, and then augment it later on with other cool stuff, like businesses. Now, you can also dissect it and have different versions on different sections of the website. Like one of our Colorado, he's got just the ski mountains on the ski page. Because once you put them all on the home page, you can have vertical stuff. You know, I'll put all the restaurants here. I'll put all the mountains, because the mountains all tweet hourly their ski conditions. Does that make sense? I can put the home improvement guys here. So it's true set it, forget it media. Once you turn it on, it's up to the advertiser to update their social networking stream to make this thing, to populate it. So it only covers 4 channels now: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. And the reason Instagram's in there, because it's the fastest growing social networking channel. Average audience sounds like 23. It's all kids, but predictions are within the next year it's going to take Pinterest out, because it has filters, and the kids love it, and adults are starting to find it. It was the #1 app downloaded, I think, on Apple iTunes ever. Like in one day, it was like millions and millions. So that's why we're doing it. I hope that explained it to you. If not, I'll show it to you when I'm done, but it's just friendstofollow.com. There's a demo there. It's and you can get a link to it on that webpage I showed you. I think we have time for one more, and I'm done, right? Back here?
I'll assume newspapers have a similar challenge that Yellow Pages do these days of getting in the door once you mention Yellow Pages or once you mention newspapers, even if you've got this great variety of products to bring them. Can you speak a little bit to the appointment setting and or getting in the door so you can bring all of these things to an advertiser?
I mean, again, I like it. I'm not here selling you media. When I did a basic sales training late last week in one of the markets, Boone brought them all everybody from Montgomery into a room and said, just do basics. And I said to the team, if they don't think you're, what's Zig Ziglar's favorite quote? If they don't know that you care, they don't care what you know. So it all starts with rapport. You're not there to sell media, you're there to grow their business. So you can lead with newspaper, but immediately walk in like the wow statement. Mr. Advertiser, I work for the newspaper. Yeah, you know who we are. What you may not know is over 350 businesses each month are finding customers, growing revenue, actually making money cost effectively. That's what I do. I help you grow your business. And we start the rapport building process. I also suggest strongly that they're not a newspaper. In Europe, all newspapers are now are called media houses. So you're just as proud of the .com in the entry. I work for the Altoona Times, altoonatimes.com. You're always dropping in the digital so they know that you're covering them in that new, exciting, geeky sphere. But I still maintain that your local presence has more street credibility than the geek from India or Constant Contact. You know, they're calling. You're not competing. I'm sure Gordon will talk about this tomorrow in his speech, but you're not competing with other local media. You're competing with Pure Plays. And he's going to mention, hoping I'm not stealing his thunder, he's going to show you the Pac-Man effect. Stay tuned for that. I'm not even going to describe it, but that's huge now. So you're competing with people on the phone. And you're competing with people that are pouncing on them because we're not getting in front of enough of them and doing it right. So that's the key. But I have them start off with more about benefit and build rapport. I'm not there to sell you media. I am there to grow your business. And that's been working a lot. I want to thank you so much for your valuable time. I wish I could stay.